And now we are going to talk about the contrarian growth thesis, which I'll have to explain to you the whole model, which is really important. You have to take into account each and every step. You have to understand it, right? So here is you, right? And so what's happening actually is that psychologically, in the business or in the personal life, you're designed into two separate, categories, right? If you understand psychology, you have like logical side of the mind, and then you have emotional side of the mind, right? And there's like and what we do in our contrarian approach is we have, in the business perspective, we have your designer part, where your mind is more focused on like building strategies, designing the systems, designing the visionary part, where you actually strategize, you actually design, you actually you actually utilize the tools and systems, and then you combine it to build a whole system, and mobilize each part of the system and how it works. And then comes the work part, which is like a completely 180-degree different thing, right? So then there's a worker you, right? The other one is the designer, and then now you have the worker part, which is actually doing the things on your own, right? So even if you're not good at it, you again do it, right? And most of the people, 90% of the people, they are operating on the worker side of their mind, right? So they want to do things themselves, and here comes the like the work hard thesis of the crowd, which they think that you have to work hard, you have to push boundaries in a direction with no vision, with no planning, and with no designing of the whole path for yourself, right? So what they do is that they focus on this part 90%, right? They focus on their worker self 90% compared to their designer self, and this is what they don't understand, right? This is what they lose the game. They think that they are working hard. They think that they are investing 10 hours a day, but their designer self is really a baby. They can't design strategies, they can't build systems, and they can't actually strategize their whole approach. And that's where they fail to use leverage. That's where they fail to use people and resources and money that they have in possession, right? Because they think that they are smart, and they think that they can do everything themselves. And again, it comes 24 hours approach, that when I was, when I realized it back then in 2022, as like you have 24 hours and it's limited, right? So you have to consider the input and the output, right? So if you have a limited input, how can you maximize and make it exponential? And that's the way we use leverage, right? And if you want to achieve exponential results, and the people that are making millions, they are achieving exponential results, and how they do it, they can't do it by worker model. Like, just think about Elon Musk, or think about Bill Gates, or like all these people doing everything that they do. Like, if you imagine Elon Musk building rockets from A to Z, like, do you think, or what we say, Bill Gates building softwares for millions of people, right? It's really what we say, it's a false belief that you are being brought to, that you're being bought to, right? And you have to just detach yourself from it. If you really want to go ahead, that your worker model, the things that, when for example you start an agency, or your consultants, you think that you will handle everything on yourself, which is like a rubbish idea, right? You can't do it, and you are not good at it, right? You might be good at one or two things, right? You must be best at it, and you have to work on those things, right? We call it the golden link, right? You have to be on a place, or on a thing which is actually really important, and without which the whole framework of your business or your organization breaks apart. So you have to be in that position. The rest, delegate it to the people who are good at it. You have to be the designer, right? So in a crowd, focus on 90% of the worker approach. In the contrarian, becoming a contrarian, you have to focus 90% on the designer model, the designer part of you. So by that, what we mean is that you don't have to sit there and waste your time. You don't have to sit there and sell your time. You have to design things. If you're doing a business, if you're running an agency, if you're running a consultancy, you have to sit down and decide, first of all, the workflow, the path that you want to go ahead with. design the strategies that you have to adopt, design the time frame that you need to achieve certain task, right? And then you have to align it with your personal goals, right? What you actually need for yourself and what you want to achieve with your business. What's your why, your how, your baseline evidences that needs to support your claim of why, right? And if you don't have any sort of those designer stuff, then you are lost, right? So if your why and all the designing thing is great, then like a game, what you do is that you find out those exact people and just put it there, right? Put it in the system. You build a system and you put it those people. Those are actually the parts, right, that we will be talking about. You put those people in their particular spaces, and then they will run the system. And then you don't have to be a worker. You just have to see exactly what these people are doing, who are doing what, and you have to manage that, right? So this is the approach, and when you realize this approach, and when you shift your mind and your approach to be from the crowd, which is a worker, to the designer approach, things will go 180 degree for you. This is a really important concept. This is like the core of what we're talking about, right? And I hope you get the depth of this concept, right? So, being a worker, what happens is that you're a growth inhibitor. You're right. You are actually destroying your growth on your own, right? You're average and you follow the crowd here, right? So what you do is that, again, you're betting on that limited input, right? So you inhibit your growth, right? You're stuck in 24 hours and you don't have unlimited potential to reach, right? So you get average results. Like, how many clients will you manage in 24 hours, right? Or if you have average talent, and here in the worker model, it doesn't mean that you just only work for yourself. You get the people who have limited, who are not talented, who are not fit for the system that you're running, right? So you have a bad talent or you have bad systems. It again comes in this one, in this category, right? So you inhibit the growth, right? And you are on the loser side of the game, right? While on the contrarian growth creators, when you join this, our approach, being a contrarian, what happens is that you create growth, right? So being a designer, building strategies and systems and plans, you are innovating things, right? So for example, if we build this model, it's not present in the market anywhere, right? No one has this this design actually. So what I did, I created this design. I take work from, I utilized my designer part of building this model, building this strategy to give it to you, so you implement it on your own business. And what it will do is that when it transforms your mind and your business and your psychology, right, it's going to transform the psychology of the people associated with you, because you will really want to share it with them, right? So this way it creates a flywheel effect, and this is where I want you guys to be. So when you become the contrarian, again, this is the difference that when I talked about becoming contrarian, and you show the path to the crowd, right? So just look at here and look at here, right? You analyze everything yourself, right? So this is the winner part of the game, right? So you have to utilize 90% of the designer part, and this doesn't mean that you have to neglect the worker part. You have to be the worker at points where it's required, but it shouldn't be more than 10%, right? And by work, I mean that, for example, if you have certain important meetings that you need to attend, right, or you have certain what we say strategy building, the strategy building is actually also work that you do, right? So that comes in the worker part, but you have to grab the concept that I'm trying to give to you, right? So this is the concept that you need to analyze if you really want to play the game at a higher level, and you don't want to be a broken agency owner or consultant anymore, right? So being a contrarian, like the foundations, the skills that you need to be a designer, to actually make things work, and to be to play at a higher level and not being a worker, the fundamental skills that you need for this model is actually predictive analysis, right? You have to be predictive analyst. And how you become predictive analyst, we have a different model, and we will talk about it later. Now I have a model prepared for that, like how you do predictive analysis. Like by this I mean that, for example, you have data from the history, like from the past and from the current scenario, and then you combine different models and different approaches and the trends and the data, and then you predict the future based on that, right? The way you do in the stock market, the people that read charts and everything. But then you do it for your actual business, right? And this is how you will gain this contrarian depth, right, from the rest of the market. And then you need management, right? The management skill that you have to acquire. You have to learn this, right? It's not natural. No one is natural skillful in this. No one is natural contrarian. They learn from their surrounding and their environment, and from the people they're already in. They have adopted the approach, and that's what you will have to do. You have to learn this management thing, and once you learn that, then you know exactly how to use people and how to use their minds. Because when you learn management, it opens the door for unlimited potential, right? You have 24 hours, and when you learn managing people, it's not just the college management subject. It's actually learning management, and sitting with people, understanding their psychology, how they operate, how the emotions operate, how you can motivate someone, how you can make someone happy, a lot of other stuff that's going on. There are basic theories on management. So when you learn this, you have 24 hours, and this management just opened thousands of hours per day for you, right? Like, think about the people who are running these big tech companies. They are putting thousands of hours per day because they have thousands of people, right? Everyone has 10 hours. Everyone is investing 10 hours, and you have like 3,000 people. Then multiply it by 10 hours. And on the other side, you are working alone, and you think that you will beat them. You are just living on Mars. You have to realize that you're just playing a losing game. You're on the losing side of the equation. You have to just shift yourself, bro. This is really, really like the core of everything. And maybe this change your belief in you, just to actually start taking it seriously, right? And then comes the communication, right? So you would be surprised, like in the world, there are like over 8 billion people, and more than half of the people, they don't understand English, right? And English, it's just a language, right? But just think about, half of the world is cut off from the opportunities that's relating to a language, right? So the whole content, the knowledge, everything in the world history that's being combined in this language, or the business, everything that's going on in being, speaking this language. So it's just a one part. Language is a one part, which is like the basic, the fundamental of being, a communicator, a good communicator. Other thing is understanding psychology. If you want to communicate with people, you have to understand the basic layer psychology, right? How the people operate, how people think, how human as a species actually evolved. So all these things, you understand exactly where to put your words, where to talk and where not to talk, right? How to present yourself, and how to do all the stuff, which is really important. And it's a part of communication and persuasion and sales and all the stuff, marketing, everything is in communication. It's like communication is a broader spectrum, right? So marketing, sales, and everything comes in it, right? So in the contrarian growth model, when we're talking about communication, we talk about all these things in a broken down format, right? So you have to realize this, that communication is actually the key. These are the four pillars of this contrarian table. You have to realize this. And then come the wisdom, right? And this is a point that's neglected by the crowd. The thing that it's all about learning a skill. It's all about just implementing the skill and just making money, right? And they don't realize is that wisdom is actually a constantly building up. It's constantly building when you're growing, right? So for example, if there is a successful business owner, right? Why they're not making billions in start? Because they have the wisdom is really low. They're in a level 1 wisdom. When they grow and they start making millions and then billions, the wisdom level rise, right? And how wisdom rises is based on the trial and error, right? They interact with people, that's a different input. They interact with businesses, that's a different input. They use tools, which gives them feedback. They predict and fail, That's a different feedback. They predict and succeed with a different feedback, right? And they listen to the market, right? They listen to different people. They analyze the approaches. They waste time or they utilize time. How they sleep, right? The way they sleep, the way they eat, everything combines into giving you a product and output. And the output may be, the one they desired for. The output may be the one they doesn't desire for. But all these things combine to form wisdom, right? And this wisdom is actually not something that can be lost, right? It just can't be lost, right? It's the interesting thing about wisdom. Like I can have this file that I'm talking about, and I can have this data that I have in my computer, and I can lose it anytime. I can't guarantee that the data that we have in the devices will be here. But wisdom that's accumulating in your head is not something that can be lost unless and until you die. It can't be lost, right? So it's a accumulating thing, right? And the more you accumulate the wisdom, the more the more better decision you make, right? So, and it's the 40% contributor to becoming a contrarian, right? It's your age. So if you have 40% of wisdom, and you don't have the rest of these 3 skills, you still can dominate. I guarantee that. Why? Because wisdom will actually make you realize that all these skills are actually the fundamental, the necessity, right? And then people who have these skills, you can also leverage them, right? Like this is the golden thing about being about the wisdom, right? So the rest of the skills that we talked about, communication, management, predictive analysis, they contribute 20% each, but wisdom contribute 40% to the contrarian, right? And these are the pillars, right, of the contrarian value flywheel also, right? So you understood like how you will go ahead with becoming contrarian, right? How you become growth creator, how you become a designer for your business, for your personal life, and how you avoid being a worker and a growth inhibitor, right? So this is the foundation, right? This is the contrarian growth thesis that you have to take into account, and you have to realize that if you don't want to go with this approach, then you're on a loose break, right? So I hope you understood everything that we talked about, right? Then comes the contrarian paradigm, right? And the thesis is important. Again, like that's the mission of yours. Like you have to be working constantly with that, and you have to balance yourself and align yourself with that thesis each time you have to work each day in alignment with that thesis, and you have to realize that you're a contrarian, you're not a worker, right? As what we say, the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he said that in his letters, if I would highly recommend go to the internet and download all his letters to shareholders. That is something that is like the best content on the planet, I will say, right? Because in the 1997 when he started, and till now, till 2023, 2020, when he was the CEO, then what happened is that what he says in 1997, the principles that he said, it's exactly the same till 2020, right? The way he slowly evolved his business, it's just mind-blowing, bro. And so he was operating in a different paradigm, and from 1997 to 2021, he's saying the same thing. It's just day one, right? He's not talking about day two. And by day one, when I was listening to his podcast on, I forgot the name, Friedman, on the Friedman podcast, and he asked about like, what is day one? Like you're talking about day one. When will the day come? The day two come? And he said that by the day one, I mean that you wake up early. You wake up the new day and you realize that it's just the day one, right? So you forget about the past, like what happened. For example, you closed a 10K deal yesterday, and then you wake up the next day and you think that I did best and I closed the deal, and then you don't work the next day. Then you're a loser, right? You have to forget about yesterday. you might have done 100K yesterday. Forget about it. That's a gone deal. You have to start fresh this day. So it's a day one. So this contrarian paradigm is actually a day one approach, right? So you have to be in a paradigm. You have to think, because the crowd is operating on a different paradigm. That's why they are a crowd. That's why they are in a worker model, and that's why they are not getting what they want. And they have the same frequency. They're operating on the same frequency. That's why they're not getting results, right? So if you want to be a contrarian, you want to, say goodbye to the crowd and being average, and you want to have a business which actually is providing some value to the people, and which is actually making some changes in the people lives, right? Then you have to adopt a model which actually is capable of delivering that claim, right? So being a contrarian actually is what we mean by that. And it's consistent and fast value provision plus attachment communication with solving the whole gap of problems in clients' businesses with the most leveraged, highly effective and predictive outcome in the contrarian growth paradigm approach, right? So this is the statement that we follow, right? So in this paradigm, you're not, and this is in the business perspective, right? So what we do is that we're not actually going ahead with value provision just a single time, right? For example, you provided a client good results, and then nothing is happening again. So you have to be consistent, right? And you have to solve the whole gap, right? And we will talk about it in much detail. Like, for example, normally the commoditized agency owners or commoditized consulting business, what they do is that they just, take one skill, right? Maybe they're running ads, or maybe they are just providing appointments or short-form content agency, or such type of things, but they're not realizing that you have to solve the whole gap. Your client doesn't want the one commodity service. They want the problem to be solved, and the problem can't be solved if you don't go deeper and realize exactly what are the foundation, what are the keys that is actually the sources of the problem. So when you solve off the sources, you can only do that by solving the whole gap. And it will make sense once we go ahead and further explain this. But you do it in the most leveraged way. So you use leverage in everything, right? And by everything, I mean that once we go and proceed further with all the models, then you will realize exactly like how will we utilize leverage, right? And effective, you have to be effective, right? And by effective, I mean that you analyze everything, and you just you fill the gap, like everywhere that you're wasting time, or everywhere that the things are not performing well, like a machine, you remove that, right? And then you get the feedback, and then you adjust your approach and make changes again, right? So the keys from the actual paradigm is actually speed and consistency. Speed and consistency in value provision, right? So speed is currently the most important thing, the most important factor in our contrarian approach. And if you're moving slow, then you have lost the game already, right? People are fast, right? And being fast, I mean that you have to design, build system, build strategies and everything faster than anyone else in your industry, in your niche. So you have to be in that capacity where you have the speed leverage. Speed is a leverage that you have. When you have actually conquered half of the market, right? Because people are lazy. They just do the business for money. They have like a really low motivations, right? And then when they don't achieve the money, then they are broke, right? Money is the worst motivation that you will have for a business. Just note it down with yourself. It's like money is nothing. It's a piece of paper. And when you go and study the creation of money and how the money works and how the monetary system works and how money is being created and how it's being manipulated by the big powers, the big people in power. And if you understood the reality of the money, it's just shit, right? Honestly. And you will realize that you're working for just a piece of paper which is no value. And then any government or any system can just make you invaluable, like without any value, right? They just destroy your whole wealth in seconds, and it can happen, right? So there's no point of setting money as a goal and what your goal should be, then we will talk about it. What should your goal be, right? Money is just a part in the value flywheel that will be discussed, and how you can utilize it and leverage it to achieve wealth, which is, the foundational goal that you will have, because more of a lot of stuff is associated with wealth. So then you have to have a humanly communication in this paradigm, right? And by human communication is becoming rare in this modern world, because AI, with the domination of AI in all this stuff, people just, they want to achieve the speed, but they think that on a human level you can't achieve the speed, which is really a wrong belief, because they haven't gone deeper into understanding what actually you mean by speed and what actually you mean by humanly communication. So this is actually also the factor which is really important. You have to be more humanly connected to people when you're in this noisy market. When you're approaching on a humanly basis, people listen to you because you are connecting to them. Everyone is being disturbed by the noises. So when you approach as a human, you're being cared of, right? So this is the plus point in this paradigm, and you have to listen to it. So then we come solving the whole gap in between the current and desired state of your prospect, right? No single commodity service. So by this I mean that your prospect currently, if for example you're an agency or in consultancy or any niche that you have desired for to work with, right? They are currently in a state where they are broke, right? They want to to achieve their desired state, right? This desired state might be money, right? They might want freedom. They might want to spend more time with their family, or they want to enjoy some vacations, and they don't want tension to be there in their heads when they're running a business, right? They don't have any work-life balance. So they are actually dreaming for their thing, right? It's a constant dream that everyone has it. So you don't actually, if for example, if there's an agency owner and you approach an e-commerce owner and you think that they want more sales just because they want money, that's really wrong. That's a layer 1 approach. You have to go into layer 2, right? Why they want the money, why they want more sales, because they want more money, and why they want more money, to get more freedom, right? And to give more time to their family, right? So the end goal is, if you go deeper down, you have to realize the whole objective is not just a material thing. It's much deeper. So you have to realize and go in deeper into realizing this stuff and solving that whole gap based on all the emotions and all the material things, and combining and making a strategy based on that, right? So you have to take all these factors in mind, and we will utilize that. And then you use leverage, right? And by leverage, again, we will come into this and explain this, how we utilize it and how you actually make it work for your business. And then efficiency, and then predictive analysis based on data and future clarity. So predictive analysis, again, we'll come to this. These are the foundation keys for this paradigm, right? Is a contrarian growth creator, we call CGC, you are in the top 1%, right? So the data and insights available to average 99% of the people won't get you to where you desire to be, right? I've already told you. So you need to dig deeper and deeper and connect the dots from history to business, from your psychology to programming. You have to think and find relations, right? Everything is interconnected in this universe. You are made from the 4 fundamental elements. Everything in the universe is made from that, right? So on the molecular level, on atomic level, everything is connected, right? And you have to find those relations. And once you find out ways to connect that, everything is, everything is a language, and you realize like what's happening, right? And we will talk about an evolution that's coming, and how we implement those models in your business. Like how it's amazing that nature has some fixed laws, and when you follow that law, you get the result that nature has actually already achieved through following the same pattern, the same program, the same equation, right? So it's algorithms of the nature that you realize, and people neglect it, right? So this is the main point in the predictive analysis. When you achieve these, when you go through the natural path, you predict the outcome, because when you do things certain way, you are sure that you will get this outcome, right? Because that law is being made by nature, not human. So the probability of being wrong is really low, right? So this is really important. Your world is different, and so is your rules, beliefs, and principles and currencies, right? In this paradigm, you are now a contrarian, one of us, right? So we are in a different world, Being a contrarian, you're with me, you're with your fellow contrarians, and we are a top 1%. We are not following a crowd. We are not going with traditional wisdom, right? Because we are building things, we are building businesses, we are showing the path to the crowd, right? And all these people, the successful people, they're all contrarians. They have challenged the traditional wisdom in some way, right? And don't worry, I will provide you with everything, right? I won't leave you alone in this new planet of the contrarians that I have designed, right? So you're on this new planet, and we're together again. So otherwise, so consider yourself an alien on my contrarian planet. You have understood how people on this planet operate, what their beliefs are, and how their value cycle and beliefs work. So the things you need to survive here are coming up, so buckle up, right? So the currencies here are time, data, and attention. These are the three currencies in the contrarian growth creators world, right? And all these three are hard to get hands on, but who find ways to master data gathering and analysis with its proper implementation, leverage each second of their time to get most out of it, and learn the eyeball following, right? So these are the three fundamental things that you have to, so these are the three fundamental things that you have to master, right? How you gather data, and how you leverage your time, and how you master eyeball following, how you let this crowd follow you, they listen to you, and how you utilize the data when you get from these people, right? So like it's saying, if all the wealth of the world is taken from the richest ones and is distributed equally amongst all, in the span of less than a decade, it will be in the hands of the same rich people. And why? Because they understood the algorithm. They know how the wealth creation works. They know how, in which paradigm they are, right? So they know the crowd doesn't have the potential to own the wealth. So they will actually, it will come back to where to its sources, right? Why? Because they operate on these three currencies. They know exactly that everything is in these three currencies, right? So now find your business. Now for your business, you need tools and systems to collect data and then analyze it. You need proper strategy and action plan to leverage your time, and you need platforms and community to generate attention. So these are actually the answers and the what we say, the steps to achieving those three currencies, right? What you need to do. So you need tools and systems, proper strategy and action plan, and platforms and community building to achieve those three currencies, right? So obviously we'll come and explain this later, but you have to take these into account. So all of the above mediums are key to mastering the three currencies we mentioned earlier. And tools, systems, strategies, platforms, communities give you time leverage and let you play at higher level. So have you wondered why the growth graph isn't linear, why it's exponential? And we have talked about it, like how people think that anyone who is growing, right, they think that it's linear, like it's just a 90 thing, like it's going like that. But in reality, it's like this, right? It's just things really hard in the beginning. Everything is not working, and you are operating at minus, right? And then since things start, making some sense, and then you realize that, like, what's happening, right? And we will talk about it, once we about in the audience creation phase, like all these successful people who were really doing well and making some millions, but then this exploded, right? How they do it, and then it's a whole formula of the explosion that's here, and how I use the same tactics, So you will realize this, and maybe you have certain answer to it, but again, we'll talk about it in a contrarian approach, right? So, in the current user of the contrarian, that we will talk about it. So let's talk about the current users of the contrarian paradigm, right? How they are operating. And so let me show you with some real case scenarios. So let me show you with some real case scenarios, like why some of the people that I talked, like how they exploded. The people that we know currently are successful people. Like, for example, we can start from Iman Ghazi, and you know it well, obviously, because he's in our industry, the leading player. So he started as a broke kid, right? And his journey is documented on the YouTube. How he started, he wanted to help his mother, get retired, and all the stuff. Just started SMA and all the stuff. He was playing at a smaller level, right? And then what happened is that he made good money, right, running an e-com agency, and then it will run well for him, and he made just millions a year. But he wasn't the person, he wasn't the contrarian that we are talking about, right? Unless until he realized the power of the contrarian paradigm, right? Eyeballs, time, and data leverage, right? So he got the audiences, he got the people, and then when he realized that audience generation and eyeballs attention gaining is actually the key to where I should be, right? And then when he started playing on that, he look at his YouTube channel, and then when he gathered all these people and then he utilized all this stuff, then what happened is that he just made fortune. He is now worth more than $1 million a year, right? So his net worth is actually more than 100 million, right? So 9 figures, 10 figures, these people are then to 9 figures. That's the net worth. And then again, it's same Andrew Tate, right? He was a kickboxing champion, right? Was making like 50 grand a year, and that was just good for him. He was popular, right? But he didn't know how to leverage that popularity, right? So he was a good player, making good money, and that was good for his life. But what happened is that when he realized the contrarian paradigm, then what happened is that his, the eyeball attention that he had, and then the time leverage, and then the data that he got from these people, then when he realized that oh bro, I'm really famous and I can capitalize on it, then what happened is that he crossed over $3 million in revenue currently, which is like, insane. So the key is not to be here, right? Everyone is operating normally here, but these people, and you have to realize that the game actually starts here, right? When you realize that you have unlimited potential, unlimited possibilities, because there's millions of people in the crowd, and you can utilize the crowd. They utilize the crowd, these audiences, people, right? So when you utilize them, and by utilizing you mean that you gather their data, right? And you start selling them, and you start manipulating them, right? The way they're manipulated by the rest of the big companies, right? Why they're making fortune. Facebook won't be just a Facebook and ape if they weren't manipulating these people, the crowd, right? So they're manipulating and they're making fortunes. And so the contrarian paradigm is actually just making things happen at a larger scale. And again, it's true for Alex Hormozi. See, he was a gym trainer with his girlfriend. He used to just sit sleep on gym floors, right? And he was also making good money when he started his gym launch, right? There was a good company, and then they were making like around 1.6 million a month, right? With subscription models for the gyms and all his content that he would, and the strategy that he would build for them, right? And we'll talk about gym launch case study also, because that's related to our agency and consultant approach. But what happened when he realized that the game is actually in the audience creation, in the eyeballs, the paradigm that we talk about, then what happened is that he crossed 500 million in net worth, $500 million, this guy actually, right? And you realize that most of the time, and why I showed you the graph to the growth is actually linear, is because initially you are spending a lot of time. So if you look at these guys here, they spend most of the time, and they achieved really like a 1% of the growth they achieved this here, right? And here they spend like 1/3 of the time they spend here, right? So in 1/3 of the time they have achieved 1/9, like they have achieved 900x more growth in this, because they utilized the contrarian paradigm, right? Like eyeballs, time and data, all these factors that we utilize. And then again, you have the biggest YouTuber, Mr. Beast, right? And what happened? He has a small channel, right? A single channel that he started from nothing, little audiences. Has actually whole thesis is based on the audiences, but he has nothing. Like he wasn't baked by anything. Here's a YouTube channel as asset, but it's not. You can't play with it at a larger scale. And then when he realizes that, yeah, I have the potential, I have the, like, I'm in a place where I can make billions, right? And when he realized that, he started building business. He started building different YouTube channels. He mastered leveraging the platform that he was utilizing, and then building different businesses around it, right? So it's not just his YouTube channel and the videos that you watch, it's the baking process of all the business and everything that he is now worth more than 5 billion, right, in valuation. So why? Because he utilized the whole game of paradigm, the contrarian paradigm, right? So you have to understand that the game actually, you have to play the game in the audience creation, eyeball attention, because if you have your offer and you're an agency owner, you're a consultant, and your offer, you're reaching out to like a broke people, outreaching. Like in 2024, if you're doing outreach, organic outreach, you're just a broke kid. You're wasting your time, because we realized in our contrarian thesis that you don't have to sell time. And how you will do it, we will definitely talk about it, but you have to understand the game. The game is not doing outreach or appointment setting. That's a layer one approach. You have to build audiences. You have to build audiences and play the game at a higher level. So if they realize it at this position, right, then why can't you realize it now? Because you have to change the game. And I realized it later. You're really, like what we say, you're gifted, like you're fortunate that I have told you sooner, because I have nearly realized it a year ago, right? And I started working on it. So I'm yet to start formally, right? So, and you would start with me, so together we will grow. But this is the secret, and this is what made me in what we say, helped me in getting where I'm, right? So what we say, that's the users of contrarian paradigm, and you have to realize that the way they operate in the way it will change the game for you, right? So here are some principles of being a contrarian, right? Because principles are really important, because for example, if you're going on a path and you don't know exactly what to use and what to avoid, principles are actually like tools, right? And I'm just providing this principle for this particular day, for this day one, right? So you know exactly how you should think, how you should operate, and what are the areas where you should be focused more on, right? So it's all about the long term, right? There's no ultimate winner or loser in any instant of time, but over the period of a lifetime, right? So anyone who is playing short term, and we'll talk about it later also, anyone who's playing short term, who is playing on instant gratification, or their goal is money, they will lose in this coming time. Business not like the previous years, right? People will just just get the cash out quickly, and then they will run the business. You will be out of business if you go ahead with that approach. It's just instant gratification, a short term approach. That's really a destructive way to run business. The second thing is diverging the value equation always results in loss and business breakdown, right? So never ever try to achieve any goal using shortcuts or any means with no proper inputs to get your desired output, right? So value equation is the balance, right, that you have to adopt, and if you avoid that, if you don't provide the value, right, and then nothing will work. You will just what we say, you won't get what you want, right? You will fail. You're doomed to fail, because you're not providing the value that's the foundational factor for achieving the wealth or growth, and you can't play the long term based on that. So those using a contrarian value flywheel are 100x faster than those who are not using it.